Have you ever wondered who South Africa's public protector actually is? Beyond the headlines, beyond the special investigations and reports that shape national conversations, who is the woman at the helm of one of South Africa's Chapter 9 institutions? In this episode of Conversations with Eminent Women, Gcaleka sits down with Public Protector Advocate Kholeka Gcaleka for an in-depth conversation about her life, her role as the PPSA, and the journey that led her to one of the country's most important constitutional offices.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Conversations with Eminent Women. Here we speak to women doing phenomenal things in South Africa and even abroad at some point. But today I've got the privilege and the honor to speak to our Public Protector of South Africa, Advocate Kholeka Gcaleka. She joins us today on Conversations with Eminent Women. My name is Gcaleka. Advocate, thank you so much for your time.
Good afternoon, Sefa, and thank you for having me on your show.
Let's speak a little bit. I want us to start on the actual press briefing that you did just a short while ago, where you spoke about it being a systematic investigation. What was the reason for doing it in that way?
The reason for doing it that way, firstly, that's how the complaint is more structured. But also when we did an assessment, we realized that this is more of a systemic issue rather than an individual issue that you need to address. It's common factors throughout the country, and therefore those need to be addressed in a systemic manner.
Mm-hmm. When you received the complaint, what was the one thing that drew your attention to it?
Well, even prior to receiving the complaint, we had actually decided on invoking the powers to do an own initiative investigation, which is in line with the Public Protector Act. It was actually the death of the child, but also the outcry from the members of the public that this is actually recurring. It's not a single incident. And thereafter, there were many others who died within that week. And I think for me, really, that really called that something has to be done and something drastic.
Mm. And of course, for those who don't know, the Public Protector spoke a little bit earlier about a briefing regarding the issue of the spaza shops and the children that were losing their lives from what was being sold at these, should we call them informal businesses? That's the right word, informal businesses. So for you, then you get this particular complaint. You then also had decided as the PP's office to actually do your own kind of investigations around what we are finding. It was mind-boggling, wasn't it? The findings that you found, where you've got a large number of spaza shops or informal businesses run, one, by foreign nationals, but two that are not compliant.
Most definitely, which are not registered, basically. So you actually have illegal operations, but yet they continue to operate. So that, for me, was much troubling. And it tells you why we then have the challenges which we are having.
Mm-hmm. PP, let's then just quickly speak about your findings and recommendations as well regarding what you've now released. What happens, first of all, with the recommendations? You then have the recommendations, but what are some of them, just briefly for us?
The recommendations which we have particularly are to the national departments, state organs, which are supposed to cooperate and support municipalities, and that's why we have them as recommendations, because at the end the enforcement and the applicability thereof is on the municipalities. That's why when you come to the municipalities, I actually take remedial actions, and the remedial actions are binding. Recommendations are non-binding. However, they must be implemented, and if any state organ is unable to implement it, they need to give just reasons. So they can't simply ignore the recommendations as well. So part of those is for these provincial and national state organs and state entities to support municipalities to ensure that they are able to comply, budget, compliance with the different legislations. But when it comes to municipality, we are more enforcing to ensure that they must comply with these. Of concern, of course, was the budgetary issue and that departments send back surpluses to National Treasury, yet they are sitting on a ticking time bomb such as these, you know. So part of the remedial action is actually to ensure that there's a proper plan, implementation plan, there's prioritization and there's delivery.
And so you say that in your briefing that this is not the final report. When, at which point will you make it final? Have you opened up the panel now for people to make their submissions as well?
Yes, we've already sent out the report to all the affected parties for them to make their submissions. So we give them about 14 days to make their submissions. Normally, they would want more time because they obviously have to arrange their own systems in a particular manner so as to ensure that the remedial actions and the recommendations are implementable. And thereafter, we then prepare for the final report. Should anything come that would require a further investigation, we do it, because at this stage, it doesn't mean that the investigation is complete, but what it basically means that we are at a stage where we are giving the other party an opportunity to make representations.
Just quickly, what happens if there's been an investigation from a few years ago where there hasn't been any form of, or people have not seen any difference, from what you have recommended or the findings that you have brought? What then happens in a situation like that?
We have investigations where there's non-compliance, and I must say, in that area, we have improved quite a lot. We come from a tenure where we were at 0.02% on implementation, and we are currently sitting at about 56%. So now this is over a period of about 4 years. It still sounds low, but I must say the increase has been quite huge within the space of time. Now, where there's non-compliance, we've got the powers to enforce. But enforcing means that we need to go to court with this, and we do not necessarily have the funds to go to court. But what we have done is to ensure that in line with our rules, we escalate. If it's a HOD who must implement and they don't, we escalate to the minister. If the minister doesn't implement, recently we actually wrote to the minister for communications, and we said to him, if he doesn't implement or take the report on review, we will then report him to the president because he accounts to the president. Now, when it comes to further assistance in terms of enforcement, we have engaged the Advocates for Transformation, which is the Johannesburg Bar, to see how we can work together with them and they can assist us, and to just take sample cases, key cases, which we can send letters of demand and see what's then the response, and probably take one or two to court, and see what the outcomes would be. And that would basically be to send a message to state institutions that we are serious when it comes to enforcement of our powers.
Absolutely. We are in conversation today with Advocate Kholeka Gcaleka. She, of course, is the Public Protector of South Africa, and she joins us today on Conversations with Eminent Women. Let's get to know her a little bit better. Let's speak about where you come from, Advocate. You are from Umzimkhulu in KZN. There's a lot of familiar names that also come from that particular area, the likes of Sizwe Nxasana, the likes of Siniso Magaqa, who's now passed on. But let's speak about your upbringing there. Did you grow up in Umzimkhulu?
I wasn't even born there.
Oh.
I was born here. I was born in Johannesburg at Baragwanath Hospital. My parents at the time lived in Sophia Town. I started school in Umtata.
Oh.
My sister moved to work in Umtata, and I moved with her. My maternal grandfather wanted me to learn the isiXhosa language, so I was taken to Umtata to school there. I didn't survive there for long. I had to come back. I came back and I schooled here at Westbury Primary School.
Okay.
And I think I was in grade 6. It was the end of grade 6. Going to grade 7, I'm a Latlamiki at home, so my parents then took pension. So I then moved with them to Umzimkhulu. So I really started to live in Umzimkhulu, I think, in 1993.
Sure.
And I had to make new friends, acclimatize with the rural areas. So I had lived in Sophia Town and in Meadowlands, in Soweto. So having to acclimatize in the rural areas. But I must say, it was the best days of my life.
Wow.
And I'm very grateful that I had that exposure, of learning the different dynamics, diversities of our country. Yes.
Sure. What was it like What was it like for you at that point when you moved from, like you say, the hustle and bustle of Johannesburg to Umzimkhulu with your parents?
I mean, for me, it was just a move. It didn't really matter. And it didn't affect me in any way, actually. I would go there visiting before, so it wasn't really bad. I stayed there, but I actually schooled at Little Flower, Ixopo, which is about 18 kilometers away from Umzimkhulu. And by the way, it was a different province. Umzimkhulu was the former Transkei rather, in the Eastern Cape. And we had to go through a border to go to school, because school was KwaZulu-Natal, because I had to go to an English school. But the challenge for me was that I was at an Afrikaans school in Westbury, and now I had to go and start grade 7 at an English medium school. So it was exciting, taking the bus in the morning. Well, I didn't like waking up, but but being on the bus in the morning to school, and when we get to the border gate, the immigration officer would come in, check the list, count us in the bus, And on some days we had to alight the bus, and go through the borders. But some days they would actually come into the bus and ensure that the bus driver is compliant and we are all compliant with the immigration laws. And I mean, just 18 kilometers away, but it seemed like a different state.
My goodness. I mean, when you speak like that now, just thinking about the situation that we find ourselves in now, as a country, with what's happening with, the marches that we've seen against illegal foreign nationals. What is your thought, when you think about how you as a young child, you were subjected to that, you had to be checked that you are actually legal and you are crossing the border into a different province.
In my own country.
In your own country.
Yeah, look, it's a sad state of affairs, I must say. And serving on continental bodies of public protectors and ombudsmen, and even internationally, issues of migration are of major concern. And mostly they affect women and children. They impact on families. And the reason why these families leave their countries is not because they want to, it's because of the socio-economic factors in those countries, issues of bad governance, corruption, particularly within the African countries. So, and the children end up not growing up in a conducive environment. It gives rise to a lot of social ills as well, because some have to grow up without their fathers. Some have to grow up in the streets, like we've been seeing how things are going. But it also makes women and children vulnerable to trafficking.
And that is a big problem, big problem. Let's come back then to what drew you to law.
Oh, gosh, what drew me to law was circumstances. I never wanted to be a lawyer.
What did you want to do?
I wanted to do speech and drama or journalism, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So growing up, I was involved in a lot of drama, speech and drama activism. So going to varsity, I wanted to do speech and drama, but I was very particular about which institution I wanted to go to, and I wanted to be at the University of Durban Westville campus and no one else.
Okay.
And my reason for that is because from grade 7 up until matric, I was in a missionary school. Little Flower is a missionary school. And I come from a very strict home. I've got 4 brothers, older brothers and 1 sister, all of them much older than me. My brother, whom I come after, is 5 years older than me. So you can imagine, I didn't even have space to breathe.
Very protective.
So I normally say to people, they used to beat me up for anything. They would just see a boy going past the street and probably I'm just standing outside now. I must answer who that boy is.
Oh, man.
So I wanted to be far away from any of that. So I wanted Durban Westville. I would hear that it's fun, it's lovely. I wanted nothing to do with law. My elder brother and some of my family members are actually lawyers, So it really used to traumatize me seeing them during school holidays, sitting with all these big journals and they'll be studying, And I was like, I don't know how to do this. But funny enough, my history teacher, because I was very good in history, and I also used to participate in the history Olympiads, etc. So my history teacher was actually confident that I'm going to become a lawyer.
Oh.
And she always said, you become a very good lawyer. I was good in debate, and I used to do speech and drama. I was good in history. And she was set on it, but I just thought, oh, no, it's never going to happen. But I then went to campus for registration January. I think it was towards the end of January 1999. And when I got to campus, that was when the merger was starting between the University of Durban Westville and the University of UKZN. And speech and drama was then moving to Howard College. And I thought, there's just no way, to the UKZN campus. Actually, not Howard, but one of their campuses. And I thought, I'm not going there, And now I had to change what I was going to study. I went back. So my brother was serving articles and staying in Durban. So I went back to his flat and I was depressed. And he says, why? And I'm like, no, speech and drama has moved. And journalism, I'm going to have to go to a technikon college. And I didn't want to go to a technikon college. I was university material. So what do I do? And he said to me, well, do law. And I said, no, there's no way. And then he said, well, all you must know is that you are going to study this year, whatever it is. You must do something, So I went back to campus, depressed, and I asked those who were busy with assisting with administration there that, well, what could I do? And I mean, it was a silly question, asking somebody else what could I do, but I was just completely off. And this gentleman said to me, show me your statement of symbols. And I did. And he said to me, we still have space in the LLB curriculum. Why don't you do law? And I was like, oh, what law? I said, okay, I'm going to come back. So I went to sit at the cafeteria for a few hours and I went back and I said, okay, fine. I registered for law.
Wow. It took somebody else to convince you that perhaps just do it.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And did you ever practice?
As a prosecutor. I was a prosecutor for 12 and a half years. Yeah.
What was it like for you?
It was lovely. I loved being a prosecutor. I was a prosecutor by heart. Yeah. Actually, my lecturer, my criminal law lecturer, Professor Reddy, she actually saw the talent in me and she said to me, you would make a very good prosecutor.
Sure.
And at the time, I thought, not really. Besides, I still didn't like what I was doing, As a result, I mean, the first semester, I didn't do well at all. Because my mind was just not there.
So what changed?
And well, my family changed me. They sat me down and told me that, you are going to pass and you are going to produce better marks because there's no money for you to stay in varsity for many years.
Sure.
You do what you have to do within the time that you have to do it, you know? So it was a serious wake-up call for me. And at that point, what made me not to focus is because my love was drama. So I was involved in the campus TV and the radio, but I didn't last long in radio. But I lasted in TV up until my final year. It was lovely. I was a presenter there. And when the head of the campus TV left, I then acted as the acting head. So my focus and love was there, but I still passed and I completed my studies.
After being set down
Yes.
for a long time.
Yes.
What do you think has built you into this formidable woman that you are today?
Wow. Firstly, it's my mother, my late mother. There's nothing like a mother's love. You know, there's nothing like the confidence the mother encourages into a child, nurtures. There's a picture of me. I think I was about 4 years old. And when I look at that picture, I'm like, I've always been this confident girl, you know? So my mother was intentional on building and instilling confidence in me. I mean, I'm dark-skinned, and at the time of growing up in the 90s, a teenager in the 90s, being dark-skinned wasn't cute, you know? But my mother always used to tell me that I'm the prettiest child alive, you know? And I'm smart. So my mother really inculcated that in me. And nobody else can undo that, you know? But secondly, I've never had a formal coach or mentor. So it was always informal for me, you know? But it's people who invested their time in guiding me and supporting me. Throughout my schooling life, I spoke about my history teacher, Miss Powell. I spoke about my criminal law lecturer, Professor Reddy, and even in the workplace. But I was also involved in politics from a young age, from age 15. And again, it was my mother. My mother was the secretary of the Women's League at the time in Umzumkhulu. And she was determined that I must join the youth league. And at the time, I mean, I didn't understand politics. I was not interested. And she said to me, well, I'll do the membership card for you and you'll thank me someday. And that really assisted me, considering that I went to multiracial schools. I didn't have much of the social context of South Africa, and I couldn't comprehend with some of the things I might have done history and so forth, but I couldn't comprehend in real life, you know. And politics helped shape that. And it assisted me to participate in platforms where ordinarily I wouldn't have if I had not been in politics. And working as a prosecutor, it was actually my first job. It's the first job I applied for and I got it.
Wow.
So again, when it said, when something is intended for you, it will find you. I didn't look for this to be a lawyer. I believe law found me, you know. And as a prosecutor, it was tough at the time. Not many were black prosecutors, women. So you had to find yourself in that environment, and you had to fight for yourself in that environment. You had to fight for recognition, you had to fight for growth, you had to fight for empowerment, because you were not easily empowered as a black prosecutor, and particularly as a woman. You would be given small cases, you know. So I stood up for myself even as a trainee. Those who trained me, even today, when I meet up or speak to them, they say to me, you were very cocky as a trainee prosecutor, you know. And again, it starts with the confidence which my mother built in me. And it goes to the experience I had as an activist, you know. in the student movement, even on campus. But the roles I took up on campus, being able to do some media training, work in the campus TV. So in prosecution, there were two types of people. There were those who wanted to invest in me. Mm-hmm. There were those who thought I was just too much trouble. But I took the opportunity of that, both. And I think both those personalities built who I am today. And I want to say to people, I wasn't really liked, because I never kept quiet. When I see an injustice, I would tell. And I would stand up for myself. And I would stand up for others. And I recall this one day, I was in court and I had witnesses. So witnesses would be given witness fees, So one of my colleagues, and may her soul rest in peace, as she is since deceased, was an Afrikaner lady. She was a control prosecutor. So witnesses would then go to the control prosecutor, request the witness fee forms, and then go to the clerk of the court to get the witness fees. Mm-hmm. So my court was actually next to her office. And I heard her shout at these people, what do you want? Talk. What are you looking for? I then went out. So it was during lunch. I then went out. And I went to her and I said to her, why are you shouting at them? No, I can't hear them. I don't understand them. And I said, but whose duty is it for you to hear them? Now, must they speak English when they don't know English? There's a lot of interpreters in the premises. Why don't you go and get an interpreter to assist you? But why must you shout? And she was senior to me. And the issue actually became big. We had to involve the chief prosecutor on the issue because she then went to report me that I was rude towards her. And I said to the chief prosecutor, no. I was actually defending my witnesses. And she must ensure that she does that which she ought to do, and she must do it kindly, And indeed, after that, I never heard anyone complaining. Other prosecutors used to complain that how she treats witnesses, etc. And from there, I said to her, you must give me the witness forms. I will give them myself to my witnesses, and then they don't have to come to you, So I always stood up for myself. And I remember this one time, I even confronted the chief prosecutor because I didn't get a performance bonus. So, and then he said to me, so one of the seniors said, no, the chief prosecutor said that my black people need to start writing proper reports. And then I said, what? And I went to him. I went to his office. And I said to him, no, we've just been informed that black prosecutors need to learn to write reports. Are you implying that we can't write English? We've got Afrikaner prosecutors here who can't even speak English properly, and they are getting performance bonuses. What are you implying? And he denied it, He said, no, Kholeka, I get this. So, and then he said to me, no, I'll give you a performance bonus next year. And I said, no, how do you know? How am I going to perform next year? Well, I didn't get the performance bonus, but the following year, I actually got a promotion. Oh, wow. And there were posts at the High Court for junior state advocates. So the chief prosecutor called me in and he said to me, there are posts in the High Court and I think you should actually apply, Sure. Well, it wasn't a word of affirmation because I then heard he said, no, she must just go and go make trouble in the High Court and they'll sort her out there. And I applied and I got the post. Sure. Just under 2 years at the Magistrates Court. In 2006, I started as a junior state advocate. And indeed, when I got there, I had a shock of my life. I wasn't used to segregation, So when I got there, when you get into the tea room, blacks sit that side, Indians that side, whites that side. Shame you would find coloreds not sure where they should sit, But I was so shocked. I'd never imagined something like that.
This is in the 2000s.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Who you have tea with is determined by the color of your skin, And it was really awkward. And I remember I had told my sister, and I said to her, I've never seen something like this, And even the work, the allocation of work, again, blacks wouldn't get the most complex of matters, The exposure was limited. Again, the issue of performance bonuses, So I recall my first case was a murder case. And it was by a police officer who shot down a young boy from a building in town. And his version was self-defense, that this young man was throwing stones at him, etc. So that docket came to me for decision, and I decided to prosecute. And one of the deputies, who's one of the executives, who's a good friend of mine now, said to me, he doesn't agree with me. This is self-defense. I said, no, I don't agree with you. It couldn't have been self-defense. One, we can't see any stones from the photos which depict the scene. And even if there were stones, he had other options. But the number of bullets, direct and so forth, And then he said, I must write down my reasons. And I did. And I submitted them to him. He came back, he gave his reasons why he doesn't agree. And I said, I still do not agree. Now, the protocol there was that if there's no agreement between the prosecutor who's assigned the matter and the deputy, it must go to the head of office, who's the director of public prosecutions, for a decision. So the director of public prosecutions then agreed with me and said I must take it to court. Then I was told that I'm going to do the matter before now Justice Khampepe. She was Judge Khampepe at the time. And I was so scared because everybody feared her. She was so strict. And so the allocation of matters would be between the judge president and the head of prosecutions at the High Court. So they clearly allocated me to Judge Khampepe, and they said, she must go and fix this one. I went to court. I was so scared. And there was this ritual of 9 o'clock tea time. So 9 o'clock tea time, if you get into the tea room or if you don't go to the tea room, then everybody knows you're having a tough time in court. Or if you get there, you just take your cup of tea and you leave. So I would still get to the tea room, sit, smile, and they'd be like, how's court? And I'm like, no, I'm going, it's going fine, So everybody waited for me to cry.
Oh, wow.
But I had a wonderful time in court. She nurtured me. She taught me so much, Not even once did I come back feeling I didn't do the right thing. And so it's situations like those which actually made me to be the person I am today.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. So let's speak about the Public Protector's Office. What types of complaints can your office actually investigate?
It's complaints. The Constitution is clear. It's malfeasance in state affairs. So we don't have the powers over the private sector. The only time we interact with the private sector is where the private sector does business with the state or interferes with state function. So then we get involved. So it's a variety of cases: abuse of power, any misconduct, any failure to act, or any action that is prejudicial to any member of the public, service delivery, ethics. So it's quite a wide range.
It is very wide-ranging. How do you think you balance being independent as the Public Protector's Office while also investigating the institutions and the powerful figures?
Independence, I only say independence is a conscious decision to be independent. You can have all the prescripts, but you need to consciously remove yourself. It's a very lonely position to hold. At times you must even abandon your friends, because the reality is people I grew up with, many are within the state. They are holding powerful positions within the state. I've got family members within the state. Like, I am a child of society, of a community, of a family. So those factors, are there. But it's a conscious decision one takes. It's having integrity, it's being ethical, that you decide that besides what the Constitution says, the Constitution can't implement that independence itself. I have to, So balancing that and having to investigate, it's also knowing that when you conduct investigations, you're not fighting with people. You are doing your job. And it's not for you to find fault. It's for you to find, in line with our methodology, what happened, what should have happened. Is there a discrepancy between the two? If yes, what then is the sanction? What must happen? What remedial action needs to be taken? And the Constitution says the remedial actions must be appropriate. So it's working within those guidelines, but most importantly is telling yourself that I have to do what's right.
What motivates you to keep serving South Africans?
What motivates me is my upbringing. I just spoke about it earlier. I grew up in Sophia Town. I grew up in Soweto. I grew up in the rural areas. So I'm very much aware of the circumstances of the people of this country. And what motivates me is just being able to make a difference in a person's life. I normally walk around the offices here in the building, and the one time I got to one investigator and I said, "What are you busy with? What, anything exciting, anything you want to talk about?" And he said to me, "Yes." And he showed me an email from an elderly couple whose SASSA grant had been stopped for 16 months. And they were thanking him for his intervention. And they say, "We don't know what we would have done without the public protector's intervention." Immediately when we received the money, we went to buy medication. Now I'm thinking, for 16 months, this elderly couple was deprived of their medication. So for me, it's really situations like those that really make me to want to wake up the following morning.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions do you have that South Africans have about your office, about the Public Protector's Office?
Firstly, that the public protector can do anything and everything within a short space of time. But also that, look, depending on who the public protector is, they judge you and say, okay, this one is not independent, this one supports that one and doesn't support that one, And also, if you do not give them a favorable outcome to them, and they think that the public protector must always find fault. Whereas investigation means you need to find out what's the truth, So, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit. I like that you speak about, people thinking that you favor other people, or, you're not independent. Let's speak a little bit about there was a time where there were talks about a report, I think, that you had brought out regarding the president of the country, President Cyril Ramaphosa. And there were not nice things said about you following that particular report. How do you handle the hate when it comes to things like that?
I've learned that I need to take out emotions out of the work, And at the end of the day, it comes with the job. Some of the things you get taken aback and you think, how can somebody say this about me? Is this me they're talking about? And I'm not going to lie and say they don't get to me. I've got a family, I come from a community and a society, But also, I am an activist of women's rights. And some of these just go against everything that I believe in. But at the same time, I have to take a conscious decision that this must not consume me. I've got a job to do. And some of it is to ensure that I focus on that and not focus on my job. So I've decided that I need to focus on what I get paid to do. And I need to serve the people of South Africa. I've got no time to sit and feel pity for myself when people still sleep hungry in the streets, services are not delivered, there's corruption in the country. So I need to focus on what ought to be done. I need to focus on the bigger picture of serving.
Do you look at like social media?
No, I don't. I'm not on social media, and I hate it when people send me posts from social media. And I would say to them, there's a reason why I'm not on social media. Because, you know, if you clutter your mind, it does the same for your soul. And how you feel is how you come across. So I really try by all means to protect myself from that.
You've spoken a short while ago about the issue of service delivery. We saw the AG's report when it comes to municipalities. Your report as well, today as well, speaking about services to people and whether they are on par. And now we're seeing Treasury as well, you know, cutting finances to municipalities that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Just your analysis, Public Protector, regarding the issue of service delivery in South Africa. Where do we stand? What is the problem, do you think, as well?
The problem starts with irregular appointments, putting people in positions that they should not be. If you don't qualify for a certain position, you don't have sufficient experience for that position. There's a reason why there's that benchmark, you know. And yes, there's Employment Equity Act as well, etc. But the person must have the potential to do the work. Proper process must be followed for the person to be appointed into those positions. So for me, that's where it starts. Secondly, it starts with systems as well. If you do not have the correct systems and checks and balances in place, then there's no way you are going to be able to manage your resources adequately. Now, people who are not suitable for the positions are not going to know what needs to be done. And some are deliberately going to decay the governance or erode the governance systems. And that's what we've seen happening in our country. The Tembisa Hospital is a classical example. The CEO was irregularly appointed. He then further got his cronies from where he worked before, where they'd committed maladministration. There was no proper vetting. And we know what happened. Subsequently, the corruption. So corruption is the biggest enemy for service delivery.
And we're seeing it also now unfolding with the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, right, within the judicial space. In your view, what does ethical leadership look like in today's South Africa then?
It's within the criminal justice space.
Yeah.
I think we need to be
Criminal
clear with
justice,
that.
thank you. Your view of ethical leadership in South Africa, what does it look like for today?
It's quite compromised. And what compromises it is not all leaders who are unethical because they embark into wrong or compromising actions, but it's those who keep quiet when they see that. You know? It's those who conform. And sometimes people are forced to walk away because they say they choose themselves and they choose their families, you know? Which I'm not saying is wrong, but if you take up a leadership position, you must be bold. Because it's going to come with its challenges. And you are in that position to protect the authority and the powers that come with the work that you do. So for me, I think that's the biggest challenge. We are really compromised when it comes to ethical leadership.
What are some of the governance challenges that you are seeing that concern you the most?
Well, it's lack of systems, you know, it's overlooking systems that are there. It's the inaction. You know, lack of decision making is a serious governance challenge. And you see that a lot. So that for me is major.
That's a big problem indeed. Where do you believe then that South Africa needs significant improvement when we speak accountability, when we speak service delivery, when we speak ethical leadership? What's the biggest improvement that needs to come from South Africa?
It's consequence management. People need to face consequences of decisions that they make. And that's the reason why we have these challenges. That's the reason we see a lack of accountability. Accountability is not merely owning up. Own up and then what? You know, something has got to change. Now, if you look at the implementation of the AG's recommendations, the SIU's recommendations, the public protector's recommendations and remedial action, that actually tells you that there's a lack of accountability, you know, and there's lack of consequence management. And that's the biggest challenge we have as a country.
I want to just take a step back. You've shared with us about being a prosecutor. Let's then speak about Advocate Gcaleka as a public protector. How did you get into this office?
Well, very interesting. Well, I was nominated by a former colleague. She's a prosecutor. She called me and she says to me, look, the post of the Deputy Public Protector is out. I'm going to nominate you. And I said, what? I didn't know much about this office. Hey, it's actually not an office I actually thought about, you know. And I said, what? No, wait, let me think about it, you know. And she was very persistent. And she said to me, I actually see you in that office.
Sure.
And then she nominated me. I accepted the nomination. And I had started a different job by the time of the interviews. And I was enjoying what I was doing, you know. And we had agreed with my principal that I'm not going to take up this job. I'm comfortable here, and there's a lot of things to implement. It's an exciting environment, and I want to continue with that. So came the time for public participation. I didn't even know that I was shortlisted. Somebody calls me and says to me, congratulations. And I say, for what? And they say, you've been shortlisted for the Deputy Public Protector post. And I'm like, how do you know? No, we had the EFF insulting you in 702. And I was like, what? So I tuned in and I listened and I'm like, oh my goodness, okay. And I said, oh, by the way, I'm not going for these interviews anyway. I no longer want this. But I then sat back and said, there are so many allegations against me. And the only way for me to clear my name is to go for these interviews. And I had to answer, you know. So I spoke to my principal at the time and I said, I'd only been working with him for 2 months actually. And I said to him, you know what? I don't want this job, as I said, but I need to go to those interviews. I need to clear my name. And he agreed. And I went for the interviews. I came back, I think a month or so later. He came to me and he said, the president is going to make the appointment. No, prior to that, I was then recommended, you know. And I was like, I'm not going to take this anyway. I don't know what was I thinking, actually. I thought I could say no. And I was then the recommended candidate. But I still thought, no, I'm not going to take this job. And then I started reading about the office and everything that comes with it. And I'm like, no. I'm not going to go there. And I actually said to my principal, you must tell the president not to sign. I don't want that job. And he just laughed. And then I think about a month or so later, he came to me and says, no, the president has signed. On the 3rd of February was going to be the first working day. And he said, and I mean, this was on Friday. He says, on Monday, you are going to start. And he says to me, do you think I'm going to tell the president you don't want to go and start as the deputy public protector? No. So I came, and that's how I landed here.
What do you enjoy most about being now the public protector?
I must say, I enjoy working with the colleagues here. Mm-hmm. I've never met a team such as the team PPSA. I've worked in many departments, you know. The team here is focused. The team here is determined. The team here is committed. They just want to serve. Mm-hmm. I've really never met a workforce like Team PPSA. Mm-hmm. And if there's one team that they always want to solve the problem, you know, we wouldn't sleep here without solving the problem or figuring out how do we solve the problem. But also, PPSA doesn't have, you know, the petty work politics. PPSA doesn't have that. You know, I don't have to sit here and be listening to who said, who didn't say, I'm not happy about this. And I'm not saying we do not have challenges, you know, but the scale is very low of those challenges. When other colleagues ask me, how do you deal with the issues of the union? I'm like, what union? We do have a union at PPSA, but very understanding, you know. And the colleagues here work under very difficult and strenuous conditions. There's financial constraints. The workload is high. We receive about 11,000 cases a year. We have just about 200 investigators. So the workload is 58 cases per investigator. Sure. And our work has become much more complex, you know, but colleagues still show up. And that for me is my greatest pride about being the public protector.
Mm-hmm. In conversation with the public protector of South Africa, Advocate Kholeka Gcaleka, right here on Conversations with Eminent Women. What a lovely conversation we're having with the PP today. Let's speak a little bit, like you've spoken now about, you know, the work that you do, how many cases per investigator. PP, for people who don't know the importance of your office, how would you explain that to them?
It's very important. Mm-hmm. Even when you look under Chapter 9 of the Constitution, it's actually the first constitutional institution that's mentioned there. The powers which this office has. And if you read that in conjunction with the preamble of our Constitution, it says this Constitution, or the commitment we make as a people of South Africa, is to redress the imbalances of the past. It is to ensure the true realization of freedom and liberation of the people of our country. That's how important this office is. And when you look at the powers given to this office, it's not powers that each and every Chapter 9 institution has. We've got the power to take remedial action. So that tells you the extent at which those who crafted our Constitution were intentional about redressing the imbalances of the past, about people having to experience this freedom and enjoy this freedom of our country. And that's basically our role, and that's how important it is to turn around the lives of people and to turn around the realities and for the Constitution actually to be realized.
When you look at South Africa, what gives you hope?
You know what gives me hope? It's going to other countries. And you come back and you're like, there's nothing like home. South Africa, leave what you see on social media and South Africa is a happy nation. You know, South Africa is a diverse nation. It's a beautiful nation, you know. But also, for me, is the activism of the people of South Africa. People of South Africa speak up. You know, we've got the most progressive constitution in the world. In other countries, what happens in South Africa, you would not experience. We are able to watch the Madlanga Commission from the comforts of our own home. You will never have that in other countries where they publicize what happens or what goes wrong in those countries. I remember when there was the impeachment proceedings of my predecessor, they were widely publicized. And just towards the end, and how I got to find out is because I serve on the world body of the International Ombudsman. It was through reporting to that body that the Ombudsman for Australia was going through the same impeachment process.
Sure.
Never saw it on any media platform. It was never publicized. So for me, is the deliberate architecture of accountability in South Africa that makes me say there's no place like home.
Let's speak a little bit about personally. How do you balance, do you think, the demands of your job? And like you say, there are times when you guys don't sleep until you get the job done. How do you balance that out with your personal life?
Sure, it's a difficult one, I'm not going to lie. It's a very difficult one. And I remember when I just took over as the acting public protector, I used to get sick at the end of every quarter. And I wouldn't know what's wrong with me, but I could just feel that I am sick, you know. I will do all forms of tests, and they all come back negative, you know. And my doctor would just say, Kholeka, you need to rest. You need to rest. You need to find balance, you know. And at the time, the institution was going through a crisis. I had to fix it. You know, I had no other way. I had to fix it. It had to work. And in that process, I sacrificed my personal life. I've sacrificed my own well-being. And my other colleagues go through that as well. But I then took a decision that, no, I can't live like this. I'm going to die in office. You know, and my family is going to lose me, you know. So I need to be a mother, I need to be a family woman, and everything else that comes with that, you know. And my family must feel my presence. And one thing about me, my niece and nephews love me the most. You know, I'm the greatest aunt ever. I'm a present aunt. And I can't allow this job to take that away from me, you know. And I'm a present mother as well, you know. But as I say, my niece and nephews love me the most. So I had to make sure that I show up for them. They see me as a role model. And I can't teach them that family comes last. Family comes first, you know. Because when all is said and done, I'm left with them. When all is said and done, anything and everything happens, they are my support structure. And so are my friends. So I need to make time for that. So I do make time for that. I stayed for a long time without a deputy. So whatever I do, I had to be present in my job, you know, so I had to juggle around with that. And what that calls for is the balance, but not the harmony which I want. There must actually be harmony, you know, between work and your personal life. But I also have a very understanding family, you know, that supports me. When they realize that it's been after 12, I'm going to take back from work, they say, then the following morning, at least sleep, you know. So that's what I do. I sleep very late, but I also wake up very late. You know, I don't really subject myself to morning meetings unless it's external meetings. Because even at about 2 o'clock, I'll be busy sending emails, 2 a.m. But I would tell my team, it's not for you to wake up and respond to it. It's because I now have the time to do this. During the day, I don't have. I must look at cases, I must do consultations, there's this and there's that. But I've learned that I need to do my medicals. I still struggle to find myself at the gym. So that's the worst. I walk when it's warm enough to do so. But I must say, I don't take care of myself as I should. Sure. You know, I'm a girl. I love being girly, you know, but I really don't have the time to do that. I don't have time to put on makeup every day, you know, and I would love to do that. But what also helps is that I don't have a very outgoing personality.
Yeah.
And I've forever been like that. So I'm not one you'd find at parties all the time, and, you know. So I go where it's necessary. And my friends and family also understand when I can't, you know. And sometimes I just don't want to, you know. And that's my personality. And people who know me actually understand that. So I think my personality actually helps me to balance. So I don't feel left out if I don't go to a party, you know. So I prefer being at home, and I spend most of my time at home, and I now have a granddaughter. I enjoy spending time with her, you know, and her friend. And I really love that, and I make sure that I make time for that, you know. But at the same time, I have to deliver. So there's no formula on how I do it, but I think I have learned how to balance things off and use the support system around me.
So when you speak about family, who comes to mind first?
My sons, my children, and my daughter-in-law and my granddaughter, you know. My daughter-in-law has actually become my best friend now, you know. Not chatting to her in a day, it becomes like, okay, I've missed something, you know. The boys will always be boys. We are a home of many boys.
How would you describe then your relationship, like you say, with your daughter-in-law? I suppose, you know, when you've got the sons, there's a bit of a protection that you have over your sons.
Yeah, with the boys, I've got that protection, but also I've got that protection from them, you know, and that love. With my daughter-in-law, I try by all means not to be a mother-in-law, you know. My mom actually practiced that with her makotis. She made sure that she makes them comfortable the best, and I do that with her. I try to be a mentor and a friend to her, you know, so that in any thing that she comes across in life, she must trust me with it.
What legacy would you like to leave behind as the Public Protector of South Africa?
Firstly, I'm very inward looking. I can issue how many reports, but if I don't leave Public Protector South Africa as a solid institution, it means I wouldn't have done my job. My vision when I came in as the Public Protector, I was clear that I want to institutionalize Public Protector South Africa. Yes, it's an institution, but is it institutionalized? I want to institutionalize it. I want to build systems. I want to digitize. I want to ensure that people here learn. And learning, it never stops. It's continuous. They must read. They must develop so that you have a proper, solid institution, properly grounded institution, lasting beyond my time. I wouldn't want the next public protector to come here and still be moving this to here, you know. They must do so because it's a nice to do, but not because they are unable to function with this here. That's firstly the kind of legacy I want to leave, and we are working on it. We've got our case management system now. But I also want to leave one where Public Protector South Africa leads. And we've already started. We are in the process of developing the case management system for Zambia. And we are using our own resource. We are not outsourcing it, our own business developer. And we are also assisting another department within the country. So there's the type of leadership, legacy I want to leave. But I also want to leave a healthy workforce. When I took over here, we did an assessment and we found that 40% of the colleagues here suffer from lifestyle diseases.
Sure.
And that's because of the stress of the job and the workload in the main. And people start to neglect themselves. So I've now introduced a compulsory tea time. I must also adhere to it. And I said to them, we need to get a bell, hey? So that it reminds everyone, including myself, that it's tea time. And people must be able to just have that moment of saying down. Pen down, computer down, I'm going to have tea. And a legacy where they take care of themselves. I've introduced the partnerships with the gym. We've got a partnership with Virgin Active. We're working on one with Planet Fitness. And we're also looking at getting some gym equipment for offices that don't have these facilities, which are far-flung, not in urban areas, for people to look after themselves. And just for colleagues to be teammates, we participate in the winter games. We do a lot of fun things here. More than anything, we really have fun at PPSA. And for me, it's a legacy where people know that you can work hard but still have fun. That's inward looking. But outward looking is where what I'm investing inside is able to produce the results, I really want to change lives. Changing lives in a systemic manner. I've increased the number of systemic investigations because individual investigations are going to change Umamthembu there, but next door to Umamthembu, you've got Umamqwati who's struggling from the same, who's not receiving that service. So you would note that I'm releasing a lot of systemic investigations. We look into Kayeli Chalanga. Again, my focus is to redress the imbalances of the past, and that's really what I want to be known for.
Outside the title, what keeps you grounded?
Prayer. I come from a very prayerful home, and I was actually observing myself recently, and I'm like, geez, I've so much become my mother. Prayer and culture. I come from a very cultural home. I believe in ancestors, There's no way my mother would raise me and thereafter she doesn't become my guardian angel, So that grounds me. Even at the toughest of times, I turn to God. I pray, and that's where I get my strength. But also that's where I get my wisdom. I'm an Aryan, so I'm told Aryans are very impulsive people. So prayer really guides me because at times okay, I want to do this, but then I'm like, okay, let me pray and meditate over it and hear what the Spirit says. So that really helps me. At home, they normally say, I would burn down a building and thereafter say, did I do that? Is it really burning? So really, prayer culture grounds me. Culture, firstly, I said, I'm a grandmother as well. That family system, those family values and principles, and having a family of my own, where I can be the public protector outside. And by the way, I don't like it when people say to me, public protector, And they say, my name is Kholeka. What's going to happen to me when I'm no longer the public protector, And I don't want to meet up somebody in the mall or down the road and they call it me public protector. So I normally tell my team, I say, please, when you meet me anywhere else, you dare say public protector. But I think what grounds me as well is just knowing that I'm Kholeka. When I'm with my family, when I'm with my friends, I'm Kholeka. So I'm able to be home. I'm a wife. I'm able to be home. I'm a mother. I'm an aunt. I'm a sister, and I'm a baby sister for that matter. So the culture grounds me because my elder brother normally say to my sister and I, so we're only two sisters. My sister is the eldest and I'm the youngest, and we've got the four brothers in the middle. So when there's going to be anything, an event at home, and then we ask, okay, what needs to be done, And mind you, I get the highest paid at home, and then it's my sister. Now, this is from my sibling side. And you would expect that I would contribute to the most. I'm quickly told, you're the child here. So even at my age, I'm the child. And my elder brother would say, and he would say it in his class, akontombazane ezothenga ingoma ekhaya or impahla of any sorts,
Sure.
So there's no girl at home who's gonna do what men must do. So it's just like that. And that really grounds me because I don't feel like a breadwinner anyway, and I don't have the breadwinner mentality. If anything, I've got a strong last born mentality. I'm the baby. So that really grounds me. My family does, and my family values.
What is the first thing that you do when you get home? Leaving the office, what is the first thing that you do when you get home?
Take off my shoes, lie on the couch. At times, I even go to the bedroom and I just lie down, and get my water. I'm forever drinking water, hot water. I think you would have noticed. The reason why I have water in the cup is because I drink hot water. So I would lie on my bed, have my hot water, and just not do anything, for 30 minutes or an hour or so. And thereafter, I look around what needs to be done. When my husband is around, I cook. I love cooking, so that should also be what I do.
What's your favorite dish?
Oxtail.
Ooh. I'll come for an invite. Thank you. I'll come for lunch when we get our invite. So you speak about water, but if you had water, would it be coffee or tea? If you had something else, would it be coffee or tea?
It would be tea. I don't take coffee at all. The last time I had coffee was in 1998. I was writing my matric exams.
Sure. Okay. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I'm a night owl.
Of course. I mean, if you're sending emails at 2 in the morning, this is a silly question, but heels or sneakers or both?
I love my heels.
Yeah.
I love my heels. But, aging, and I must admit I'm aging now, I actually love sneakers, but it's not what I have much of. Yeah.
Love the heels.
Yeah.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains more. I'm quite a spiritual person, and I find so much of clarity up the mountain. I love hiking. I hike.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you don't have time for the gym, you'll have time for the hiking.
Yes.
Okay. Sweet or savory?
Both. Let me tell you something about that. So one really works hard here. You can't be the public protector if you can't put your hands on deck, So when I get out of this office, you see where Prince is standing, they will already have a chocolate and chips. And at times when I change mood, they would bring chocolate and chips. They know that I'm going to be better because with the work, so to keep me happy, both.
Okay. Summer or winter?
Summer.
Oh, no. Okay.
No, I don't love winter. I don't like dressing heavily, so the coats and all.
Not for you.
Not for me.
Not for you. Book or movies or series?
Book.
Okay.
I'm terrible with the TV. I can stay in the house without having the TV on and I would not even notice. Only until somebody walks in and like, why is the TV not on in the house? And I'm like, what?
Phone calls or text messages?
Text.
Please
Text me. I hate voice notes. Oh gosh, the only person I enjoy receiving a voice note from is my granddaughter, because she can't read and write as yet properly. She's 6, but Anybody else? Please text.
What's the one word that you think your friends would use to describe you?
They say I'm an ice queen.
Okay. What's the best career advice that you've gotten, that you've ever received?
Sure. Is that I must not be afraid to be ambitious. Yeah.
Okay. One leadership quality that every woman should have?
You must be feminine.
I love that.
Yes.
So even in what you do, still be feminine in what you do.
Be feminine. Be a woman. Don't want to not be a woman. Be a mother in the workplace. You know, I work with youngsters here in my office, in my close proximity. So sometimes I would stay late, you know, and then on Fridays they would still be here, and I would say to them, "Hi, guys, nichola nini?" Different child is if you guys are always around me here, when are you gonna get husbands and wives? You know, and that for me encourages the most. I need to project what I want them to be. You know, the young ladies, be pretty. My former CEO drafted a dress code, and I said to her, "What's that for?" And she says, "No, I can see the girls here wearing shorts." Because then I was like, "Then let them." You know? As long as they are decent, why must you have a dress code? Why must you restrict people? If they feel good in a short dress, then let them be. You know? So for me, really, it's femininity, and I think we miss it. And when our country adopted the affirmative action, it was to bring in that quality in the workplace by appointing women. It was not necessarily to dilute the gender, you know, but to actually dilute the actual qualities of leadership and the kind of leadership that's required. And we should never miss that.
Absolutely. Who inspires you the most?
It's my sister. My sister doesn't age. You know, when I look at her, I'm like, oh, I want to be like this. But she never stops studying, being the big sister. I don't think I would have been able to do the things that she has done for us and continues to do for us. I even have to say to her, please enjoy your money. You know, and each time she'll say, no, I'm putting this aside. You know, when I die, I need to leave this for her. And I said, for me, I don't need anything from you. But she inspires me most. She's wonderful. She's a hard worker, but she still puts family first.
What or who is the one thing that you, or one person that you're grateful for today?
It's my husband.
Ah, okay. Let's go with this and that. City life or countryside?
Countryside.
Netflix or YouTube? If you had to choose, you don't do TV.
Netflix. Okay. I do. I mean, I was watching the most famous one recently. The Kholeka.
Would you dress up or dress down?
Oh, I always dress up.
Cats or dogs?
None. But I've got a dog and I actually love him so much. But
none for you.
None for me.
Cook at home or eat out?
Cook at home.
Always.
Oh, I love it.
Instagram or LinkedIn, if you were to choose a social media?
Instagram. I love fashion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Android or iPhone?
I'm an Android person.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, through and through.
Through and through.
Okay.
Takes the best pictures.
What's your favorite music genre?
It's one my friends don't like. They always say my house is boring. It's opera and classic.
No.
Yes. Yes, I listen to Andrea Bocelli is my favorite.
Wow.
So my friends always say, oh, when we come to your house, we must bring our own music.
One item that you just can't live without?
Handbag.
What's in your handbag?
And I even carry my own handbag, I normally say to my colleagues, like when we're traveling, and I say, okay, what's each one's role? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I said, because I carry my own handbag. I don't want anyone to carry my handbag.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Eating chocolates.
Eating chocolates. Okay. And your favorite holiday destination?
St. Francis Bay.
Ooh. What's the one thing that people would be surprised to know about you?
That I'm very laid back.
I
very, very.
totally agree. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
The Public Protector of South Africa, Advocate Kholeka Gcaleka, speaking to us today on Conversations with Eminent Women. I hope you laughed as much as we did with this particular episode. And remember to like and to subscribe to Conversations with Eminent Women. From myself, Tseho Hajamoachi, and the whole team, wherever you go, whoever you encounter, just be kind and protect your peace. Bye-bye.